We're good for it.
Sounds good.
Oh.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Pundit. Yes, you're seeing double because we had one yesterday. We have one tonight, a weekly doubleheader. Doesn't happen often, only when the situation does present itself. Before I get to the crew here, let me let everybody know that the Pundit is being broadcast around the world. Yes, around the world. The audio version of Pundit can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Feel free to participate in the chat room. There's a guy by the name of Will Vogel will do later on tonight on Fire Up following this show. Send topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call, 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, eventually Instagram. We'll be working on that over the weekend. And our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter /X@TribuneSouth. Candy Ebling is producing the show and does a lot of other great things behind the scenes. My book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. You can get that on Amazon and Kindle. And also, this show and the Sports Exchange will appear on NGBN TV in the not-so-distant future. With that said, let me introduce the crew, going right to left. Oh, no, right on top. Okay, there you go. I'm so used to the other thing, but forget about that. All right. George Eichhorn. George, he'll be on twice tonight.
Good to be here, guys. Looking forward to tonight's show, especially this one. Pundit, always a great show.
Sure is. And we got Denzel the Sniper. Welcome back, Denz.
Hey, not seeing anything, people. All right, this is two pundits in 1 week. I know it's a lot to handle, but hey, look, go and pour up a nice beverage and just sit back for part 2 of 2.
You got it. And last but not least, the pundit himself, Jacob Christner. Every once in a while, I got to kick him around if he does something crazy. But in the end,
I don't feel it though. I don't feel it. Just makes sense.
No, he's like Rocky. Although Chuck Wepner.
And by the way, we're heard around the world. So hello to Liechtenstein.
There you go. But Jacob, I will say one thing about Jacob Christner. He's the most coachable person I've ever dealt with in my 40 plus years in the business. So that should say a great deal about JC. All right. With that said, I'm going to turn this over to Denzel Snipes, and then I'll take over when we start talking about pundits' views. And there's Denzel.
All right. And also be sure to give us a like, follow, and subscription on Sideline Sports on YouTube. We are on YouTube, Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it today. We're on LinkedIn also. We got great material week in, week out. So once again, that is Sideline Sports on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Well, and last night was a great episode. I think this one might be a little bit more ramped up, if you will, because I'm going to go ahead and get it started.
Evening there. Why is that morning? Evening there, Will.
Hey, maybe he's like overseas right now. I don't know. It's morning for him, but I mean, you might be right, But anyway,
Charlotte overseas. I didn't even know that. All I know is Will Vogel is proving us exactly what I tell everybody here, Denzel. If you participate in the chat room, you're coming on the show, and that's exactly what they're doing following the show. Proceed.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get the festivities started, shall we? This is the Stephen A. Smith, Jason Whitlock rivalry. So a few cliff notes here. On the Stephen A. Smith show, he went on a 40-minute rant condemning Whitlock regarding Smith's memoir. Also, Stephen A. Smith is going on record as saying he is the worst human being I've ever known. Even Jamel Hill sided with Stephen A. Smith, Jamel Hill of ESPN, saying Whitlock tried to recruit her and others to work at the Undefeated, where Whitlock currently is, and they did not want to work with Whitlock. Now, me personally, I think he's the worst dude in sports journalism. I've said this on plenty of platforms. Hadn't been on too much lately because it's pretty much like, well, I kind of, got what I needed to say about him, and then that was it. But just when you think he's gone away, he's back like that slithery cockroach you can't kill. No amount of newspaper, no amount of raid, or anything like that. That is just who he is. Mind you, this dude made an enemy of Kobe Bryant because he had the gall to ask a stupid question to Kobe. And when Kobe embarrassed him by giving him the wow reaction, he went on and made this man an enemy. Then when Kobe dies, all of a sudden he's, he switches up. He's fake to me. He's really fake. Go and look at his reactions right after Kobe Bryant passed. He tried to act like, oh, well, I was such a fan of his and so forth. No, nuh-uh. We all saw that press conference. We all saw your reactions after that. So no, this you can't just pull the blind over. I always tell people, you can't pee on me and tell me it's raining. Okay, I've said this about Jason Whitlock for the longest, but I know this man Jacob's got a lot to get off his chest. Probably a lot uglier about it.
Before you do that, though, I want to get this up by Will Vogel, which Jacob is definitely.
What I gather is that Whitlock, in my opinion, has a little to no room to talk because reading on his bio on Wikipedia has burned every bridge he's got. And I'm going to bring that up.
Yes, he has.
So you can talk on the side of Stephen A.
I'm going to try and transition this over to Jacob because he's going to be a lot uglier about this than I am. Go ahead,
Well, let me say this. I am absolutely positively 1,000% going after both of them. Denzel, because you know me, I do not like Whitlock. I don't like him. First off, Whitlock started it. So I'm going to call that out. He completely and utterly started this. And it all started from a book review. And then he started based off, after the book review, he had to link the whole Cat Williams thing by saying that there was a cabal that Stephen A. And then he was placed in the top role. BS like that.
Yeah.
First off, let me say this to Jason Whitlock. First, you're playing like you are the everyman. Like you are saying all of this now because you're on Blaze TV because you want to speak the truth. No. You were on the Kansas City Star. You were on ESPN twice, Fox twice. You were on AOL Sports. You were, let's see, what else is there? Oh, yeah, by the way, Clay Travis can't stand you. He was going to be running out, help with Outkick, and he was gone in about 2 months. Everyone, he's finally on Blaze, but that's his paycheck. He's saying all this. You want to know something? Let me bring this up. Someone like me is on two great things like South Florida Tribune and Sideline Sports that we all work together, which I'm proud to be with Scott. You know what I'm saying? But you want to know why? One of the biggest things I love about it, I'm left alone to seek what I want to say, to do that type of thing. If there would be a chance at another place, I've already said to you, I've got maybe 2 spots elsewhere ever that will hire me. I've told you 1,000 times, have I not?
Yeah.
Maybe 2. I admit it. I say it. But because the minute ESPN takes a look at everything I've said, it's over. I don't deny it. This guy says he's trying to do it part of the cabal. He was the cabal. He was the cabal. And that's the whole thing with this. Now, Stephen A., you said that you've been doing this for about 10 years. BS. The whole time thing. Because with all the ESPN shows, I've seen you around. No. You hated them just recently, in the last few years. And the biggest thing about it is what Whitlock did calling you out was just dumb because he needs yours. What's the good word for it?
Response. Response.
Thank you. He needs your response to get hits.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have even responded. He is on Blaze TV, which is conservative. It's niche. He gets whatever he's going to get. You just added probably 5,000 more hits for him, 5,000 more subscribers right there by responding to him and doing a whole show about him. You gave this thing. And then Whitlock's going to be right on one thing. It's like some of your basketball stories are a little BS, but that's neither here nor there. You did it by you gave him more hits to be able to talk like this by giving him time. You're number one. You're on ESPN. You can leave ESPN to be at a late night talk show. You didn't need to give him this much thing. Whitlock's not to be trusted. Whitlock is in the same boat as Jamel Hills in the fact that they can't get work. Neither of them can get work, really. Maybe one's on the liberal side, one's on the conservative side. I don't like Jamel. You've known that, Denzel. But I don't like Whitlock either. I don't care who's going to agree with me. I don't like either of them. And it's like, he's with that. That's the thing. He talks about the cabal that he's doing this thing. Someone like me is the one that'll say something like this, knowing, going right in there, that the minute I show up somewhere, they're going to say goodbye to it. He's just burned every bridge, blown up every bridge, napalmed every bridge. And what Stephen A said had some points. No one likes him. And Chris Broussard is considered one of the nicest guys in the business. Can't stand him.
Yeah.
I mean, forget the whole thing. These are the things, and these are the truths. Don't even pretend that there's some kind of cabal when you were part of it. You just napalmed everything. And you napalmed everything. You're a phony. Whitlock, you're a phony. Stephen A, you gave him too much time. I'm not a huge fan of you either. But you gave him about 5,000 extra people, and you fell right in. And now this is going to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely agree with everything you said. Now, I want to kind of spin this just a tad bit and swing it over to George Eichhorn. So if everybody at home actually recalls, a few weeks ago, we did kind of a two-parter topic as far as what's it going to take to bring credibility back to journalism, sports journalism, and what have you, So, George, after hearing about a guy like Whitlock, and from what you already know about him, and now we want to tie it to that topic as far as credibility in journalism. Where does he fall as far as credibility in journalism? Is he one of the ones that is giving journalism a bad name, whether it's just mismanagement of facts, if it's just for shock value, whatever he's doing? Give us your thoughts about this.
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, I don't know a whole lot about some of his past, but when I was doing my research for tonight's show, I found out that, yeah, he's moved around so much, like Jacob described, so many different places. One of his stops was Ann Arbor, covering the University of Michigan, the Ann Arbor News. I do remember him being in the state for a couple of years. But I tell you what, the guys that I look up to, like Rob Parker, and I know, Scott, you're good friends with Rob as well as I am, and of course, Stephen A. Smith, the thing is that when you want to be controversial, when you want to be opinionated, you still have to back up your work with facts. And when you come and you make things up, or you speculate on somebody's gender, or get into all these political things, to me, that's a big turnoff. And not to say that there's politics, that there isn't politics in sports, because we know there is. But to go ahead and try to make a name for yourself and to try to do all that, he's jumped around so many times. I mean, so many places you described. I mean, ESPN and AOL and Fox and Ann Arbor News and now the
Kansas City Star,
the conservative station that Sean Hannity and him are buddies with. Not Sean Hannity, I'm sorry, with the guy that left. God, I forgot his name. But anyways, he's gone a little bit too deep into the political stuff for me. I don't mean to say that politics is not important. It is. I know it is. But to be a true journalist, back your stuff up with facts. Don't start throwing stuff on there. It's the old theory about, I'm going to throw something up on the wall. Remember that, guys? And we'll see what sticks.
Let's see what sticks.
And no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. Thank you, Will. Will says, I agree 100% with George. Couldn't say it better myself. Well, thank you, Will. We respect your opinion as well, and look forward to you on the next show. But listen, I tell you what, like I told you, I mean, we've met so many guys, I mean, Scott and I have been around this for 40 plus years. We got guys like Larry Whiteside and Rob Parker, Drew Sharp. We've had so many things. Brian Burl, help me out, Scott. Brian that died early from
Burwell.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, Brian Burwell. I mean, we have run across and been co-partners or cooperative with so many different guys in the business, and I don't want to make it into a politics thing. And this guy has just gone way off the deep end as far as I'm concerned. And you got to come back to the journalism standards that we all want to respect and try to go after. And he's not following that at all. That's about all I got for him.
No, totally agree with you. It's almost at this point he has different angles, but all of them with like bad intentions. Let's face it, Stephen A. Smith is the face of ESPN. Some would call him the face of sports talk. Period. You
Mhm.
know, um, and he's shooting at him, and he already has a bad reputation. Regardless of your feelings on Stephen A. Smith, that's still not a good look. Especially when, like Jacob alluded to, you've burned every bridge everywhere you went to.
Right.
You know, so I want to round this out with Scott. So same parameters here, okay? We talked about bringing credibility back to journalism, and you see what Jason Whitlock is about from whatever you know about him and what you know about this topic. You know, what do you think his angle is? Is it shock value? Is it just he just wants to play that bad of a guy? Or what's your take on this?
Number one, okay. I watched Jason Whitlock a few times on ESPN. I was completely turned off by the guy. If there's anybody that's phony, he is it. Okay. If you want to bring out the concept of fake news, then I can call Jason Fake News Whitlock. Okay. Because that's what this guy's about, fake news and clicks, right? And again, we don't allow politics or religion on our site because we feel there's enough topics out there to talk about. But again, he's like Will Vogel said, he's trying to get clicks and views, is what he's trying to do. Well, you already outlined it, right? Jacob, he talked about Stephen A. Smith, and as a result, he got more attention. But that's nothing. Here's what we have to understand about today's journalism. And this is what we really do. Back in the old days, old school media, which I talk a lot about in my book, okay, he would have been blackballed. Nobody would even touch this guy. Nobody. But dial it up to 2024, right? Everybody's got podcasts. Everybody has a voice. Can't get blackballed if you start something up. Okay. Curious George the Monkey could start a podcast if he wanted to. Now, so how long would Curious George the Monkey last? Well,
More than Whitlock.
as long as you got as long as you got a computer, you got a microphone, and nowadays you need a camera, anyone could do it. We got 1 or 2 million of these. Who's counting? It's a lot. So Jason Whitlock, to me, if he ever, and he never will anyways, come up with any journalistic value, and it's a shame because he did work at the Kansas City Star, so one would think that there is some journalistic there somewhere. We just haven't been able to find that. You mean to tell me we're going to have 4 David Copperfields on this freaking show where none of us we're magicians? Or do we have 4 Ray Charles, okay, where none of us can see? All right? Exactly. So Jason Whitlock, you know what? You're lucky new media because old school media would have booted you faster than Gus the Mule did in that General football movie I saw many, many years ago. I don't know how many people were alive then. I remember you have a mule kicking field goals that could go from 60 to 80 yards deep, maybe 100 if you're lucky. And staying on point, to me, Jason Whitlock is just trash. But he represents what you guys have talked about, what we've talked about, and that being the fact that there's a lot of great people in the media that are doing the job well. And I will say in recent weeks, okay, I've enjoyed watching Stephen A. Smith a lot because apparently the people at Disney have told him to tone it down a little bit because I've noticed a difference recently. You can rant a little bit, but don't do it 100% of the time. So now Stephen A. has gotten considerably better. He's doing a lot. He's always been great at research. Nobody likes to be yelled at for non-stop. So he's showing more respect towards the people that he has on. So Stephen A., who knows if you're ever going to watch the show anyways, but I give you credit. You are improving. And if you feel that Jason Whitlock crossed particular boundaries, you have every right to hammer this guy, and you have a whole lot more followers, so it doesn't matter. So this is his moment in the sun. Well, I would recommend Jason Whitlock go to Alaska, and I'll tell you why he should live there. Because during the wintertime, they only have 4 hours of daylight, and they have about 20 hours of darkness. And I think that Jason Whitlock, to me, is in the 20 hours of darkness.
Yeah. And Denzel, if we've ever seen Boondocks, you know what character he is.
Oh
Jason
yeah,
Whitlock.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, but we know this, but I want to say this real fast. The reason I brought that part up, he was the originator of Undefeated. He was going to have him run it, and he screwed that up. They did Undefeated.
Okay.
Undefeated was supposed to replace Grantland a year and a half earlier, and he was screwing that up. He was screwed that up because they were bringing in. He brought in a white guy to run it, and then they fired him before they got the thing up. But see, the thing about this is, I remember, like I said, what James Evans said on Good Times. He said it to Michael. It's like said Michael wanted to say, "What about Black Pride?" He said, "What about it? You're Black, be proud." And I say that to you're Chinese, be proud. I say you're white, be proud. I say it to be proud. Do not have a self, regardless of who you are, don't have a self, what's a good word for it? I'm not going to say self-esteem problem, but it's like, don't be
self-serving.
Self-serving, yeah. Thank you. Don't have a self-serving thing about yourself. Oh my God, I'm so shamed. I'm so this. I hate I don't have that. You are what you are. Know the mistakes that you have. Everybody needs to be proud. We got to quit this divide. Someone like a Jason Whitlock and something like this, why I said the word "why" under that title, they're both 56 years old.
Yeah.
They're both 56 years old. You put them into a ring for charity, they're both going to wheeze out in a minute.
Yeah, true.
They're both going to. I don't care if they're just going to, because neither of them are built for fighting. They're acting like 9-year-olds. Like, this wasn't necessary. Stephen A. should have ignored this, because now you added things, and then he's going to keep going.
Oh, yeah. Jacob, give me a break, would you? You think Stephen A. Smith is going to ignore this? All right, let me ask you a question. I'm going to go back to my favorite Sanford and Son. You always get one of these every show. Okay, Jacob. All right, no, the heart attack. Don't ever mention that around my sister-in-law, Marie, because I'll tell you, she don't like that stuff. Okay, and that's a family matter that we'll talk about. But are you crazy? Do you think this guy's going to ignore anything? The more he has an opportunity to go out there, keep your fingers over there so you can't look me in the eye, Christner. Okay, I like.
That had nothing to do with that. I was doing the chat.
But my point is, are you crazy? You think Smith is going to ignore it? He's going to feast off of him. Let me tell you, Stephen A. Smith could be the great white shark of journalists if you get on his back and you give him the riot act. I'm just telling you, man. Give me a break, Christner. Oh, but you know what? This coaching moment, okay, to Jacob Christner is presented by Sideline Sports and South Florida Tribune. So
how sad.
So he's got to make sure that his coaching moment is presented by something. So are you crazy? I didn't have that much energy a little earlier. My wife managed to find a way to get me some caffeine to get me going there.
All right. Hey, we do have to keep the show rolling on. But before we do more comments from our guy Will, he said, "What I learned in school, cite your sources, because if you don't use facts, you're going to go downhill fast, and it wouldn't be easy climbing back up. So state your facts and back them up." Absolutely. That's what every media professor when I was in college taught me.
I think Whitlock's trying to get clicks and views.
I think Whitlock's trying to get clicks and views, yeah. And that actually alludes to what Whitlock plays Pintail on a donkey, non-blindfolded, and will still miss. I would definitely agree there. Yeah, and you know what? That alludes to what Scott was saying, because way back when he would have gotten blackballed, but because now it's all about attention, clicks, and views. So Gomer Powell would say to Whitlock, "Shame, shame, shame." Absolutely. Well, we do have to move on to our next topic here, and that is the Grambling State women's hoops winning by 141 points. So get this. So they beat the College of Biblical Studies Lady Ambassadors 159-18. It's the largest margin of victory in women's Division I hoops. Look, I'm not taking anything away from Grambling or anything like that. You went out there, you won a game, that's great. You set a record, that's great. But okay, I'm just gonna say it. This isn't shocking, okay, people. All right. When you're playing the College of, what did it say again?
Biblical Studies.
College of Biblical Studies. You're supposed to beat them by 141 points. Are you kidding me? Are you crazy? Are you crazy? Did I do it right, Scott?
No, you did it really good. See what happens? Well, this is one of these kind of shows that not only we pundits, Okay, well, we have a tendency to duplicate each other and take each other's lines so we can make them a part of this show. Are you crazy? Yeah, we're all crazy because I'm on this show and anything can happen when I'm at 100%. Okay, and then everybody follows whatever you want to call me. I've heard all kinds of different things depending on the mood of the individual. But no, that was fantastic. I'm proud of you.
All right. Look, my point is this. The next Diana Taurasi is not going to come from the College of Biblical Studies. And that's no shade to them. They are who they are. They got an athletic program that's great. Okay? But does anyone really have them beating Grambling or a Stanford or a Texas or Notre Dame or maybe a USC or South Carolina maybe or LSU? No, never. So whenever you're Grambling State, you're supposed to beat them by 141 points. It's not a shot. It's just like whenever Jaden Daniels, he threw 8 touchdowns versus Georgia State. You're supposed to throw 8 touchdowns versus Georgia State. Now if you threw it against Georgia, now we're talking. So with that being said, you go and you beat South Carolina by 141 points. You might flip that entire program upside down. That'll never happen on this planet Earth, never on God's green earth or in Satan's red hell. Would that ever happen? But my point is this, okay? There's not too much stock to be put into this because of who they beat. It's like when Alabama plays Mercer in like week 10 and they go up 49-0 at the half. Does it shock anybody on this panel? Let's start it off with Jacob and get your thoughts about this.
No, not at all. And besides, with that game, College of Biblical Studies, you didn't have a prayer. It's just the truth with this. But jokes aside, with something like this, there was no shock that they were going to have this. But who's doing the scheduling? It's like you have to. And the thing I have to question about is how many schools are going out of business to where you have to fill in a spot. Because remember, it's not just moving conferences anymore. There are schools going out. Yeah. There are more schools that are going out. So you're now having to fill a spot. Who found College of Biblical Studies? Did you literally go to Max Preps and then find out that one of the people did that? Did you do this? Where did you find this? And it's like, and darn good and well, if it's College of Biblical Studies, the practices are an hour a day.
Probably.
Tops. Because it's all biblical studies. Good for you if you're a minister, want to be a minister. But you're supposed to have a couple of hours. You're supposed to constantly work. You're not getting that kind of work in. You're not putting the work in that it takes to get a Division I, Division II school. The top-notch people. You're not going to get that. So who's getting these now? And who's the coach that filled this, that accepted it in the first place? And it's like, so no, I'm not going to blame Grambling. I'm not going to blame them at all. Run the score. Make it 200-0. I'm thinking that they let them they took the foot off the accelerator, let them have 18 points. It's like, let it be 200-0. I don't care. Yeah, you might get the coach fired, but it's like, that's whose fault for doing that in the first place. And then even worse, let's just say they weren't even half bad. Who's the coach and where's their preparation? Knowing that you're not going to have full preparation with a biblical studies thing. Your preparation's terrible. Remember, even John Wooden only had an hour and a half a day, and he made them the 88 straight wins, and all those titles. And that was an hour and a half a day. It's just consistency. You don't know how to coach. You just put in that spot.
Yeah, pretty much so. And, and I could only say that maybe that coach accepted it because it was going to be the literal highlight of that year, because they're like a no-name school who plays no-name schools on the regular. So Grambling State is, it's kind of like Hollywood coming to town,
Yeah.
That is a school that should be focused on theology. And that's what institutions like that are supposed to be, They have a sports program.
It's out of Houston.
Great.
It's out of Houston, Texas.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, you take a school like this and you put Grambling up against them, you already know what's going to happen. I'm going to bring it to George here and get your thoughts about this. Was it really a surprise to you that they won by this much?
No, not at all, because I had heretofore not even heard about this school. Obviously, we've seen this happen even in college football, where the teams like Alabama or Michigan or Ohio State, go out and find somebody. But the situation there is one in which you're getting notoriety in college football. You're also getting a piece of the action as so far as you're playing in front of 105, 110,000 fans sometimes. So I'm not sure what the value in return was. Did the Lady Tigers give some of the money to this school? I mean, they were only 5-5 coming into the game, Grambling. So they just destroyed them, obviously setting a Division I women's basketball record. But this was a Division II school, and I've seen this play out a little bit, not to this extreme, at my alma mater. I went to a city school in Detroit, Wayne State University, but they're not Division I. And we've seen them play games against Michigan or Michigan State, and even Oakland University down the road here in outside of Detroit. And we've seen Wayne State, lose their shirt. I mean, they just get romped. But it's kind of a friendly battle because they're trying to help the little sister out, the little brother, whatever you want to say, not sister, sorry, the little brother school, and the men's basketball program at Wayne State University cannot obviously touch the programs that I mentioned at Tom Izzo at Michigan State or Juwan Howard has at the University of Michigan. And I know that this College of Biblical Studies, I'm sure, like you guys said, they're probably not getting the practice time that they get at Grambling. They're not getting, obviously, the notoriety. They play in a smaller thing called the Southwest Region of Division II, the National Christian College Athletic Association. So the record was previous to this, I believe in 2018, when a school called Savannah State beat Wesley in Georgia 155-26. So all this being said, no, I agree. I mean, it's not Grambling's fault. They went out there and played the game fair and square. I mean, it wasn't like they were hacking and committing a lot of fouls or anything like that. Nothing like that happened. I mean, it was a regular game, and the officials, obviously, there is no limit as far as the points that can be racked up. There's a mercy rule. No. So, you learn from this experience, but you got to scratch your head and say, really? Why did you schedule something like that if you're the athletic director, the athletic department there at the Biblical Studies College?
I wonder if it's one of those deals like in college football. It's like, hey, we'll pay you like X amount of dollars to like play us.
Yeah.
Like when
Could
say
be.
I don't know, LSU faces, I don't know, Tennessee State, and they pay them $1 million to come into their building, and they see it as a tune-up match, and Tennessee State sees it as, well, if we lose, at least we got $1 million, or we can pull off the upset and then leave with a 2-for-1. Who knows?
I think College of Biblical Studies, I think their agreement is to pay their light bill.
Probably. And probably a few cell phone bills as well.
Yeah, no kidding. Listen to this. They also played Xavier University, the College of Biblical Studies. Yeah, it's not lost 94-22. They're 0-8 right from what it sees right now, and they average loss is about 61 points.
Jesus Christ. So I'm gonna round it out with Scott, and I already know your answer, but I'm gonna ask anyway. Is this any shock to you?
No. That's one of the shortest answers you'll ever get out of me. Don't hold your breath. Where everybody else I document this 1/11/2024, one of the shortest answers. No. Here's the thing. And I know we have a couple of other topics I really do want to get to before the show is over with. So item number one, I still have a heart. Some people think I do, some don't, but I do. I hate to see any school get blown out by 141 points, regardless of the level. It has to be deep, has to be hard for the team that's getting hammered that bad. Item number two, I hope they got paid a fair amount of money to get their tail kicked. And I can relate to that because Howard Schnellenberger, Florida Atlantic, scheduled a lot of those guarantee games. And by adding all that revenue to Florida Atlantic, enabled the program to build an on-campus stadium. I've seen Miami beat Savannah State 77-0. Now, let me tell you, Savannah State ended up, making out pretty well. And I actually met one of my good friends, one of the early people on the South Florida Tribune, a guy by the name of Xavier McKnight. And to this day, Xavier and I are pretty good friends. So I have compassion when they lose by 141, but I just hope the biblical college goes ahead, gets a little bit of money out of this deal. That's all.
That's all that they can really come from that,
Yeah.
especially now that a literal record has been on. Here's Will again. Big schools, smaller schools. I'm sorry. Can you put that back up, Candy, real quick? Big schools. Thank you. Big schools, smaller schools. So play smaller schools except for March Madness sometimes. And then from her as well. First year Grambling coach Courtney Simmons said Wednesday on a post on X, formerly known as Twitter, that her team's goal was playing its best basketball rather than running up the score against the startup program.
Oh, they played their best basketball, right?
Oh, yeah, they did.
But by the way, that's not even the first time they've had a blowout this year. They lost to Houston Tillotson University 106-19.
No.
The 94-22 against Xavier. Yeah, and let's see, and it just keeps going and go. Oh, they got 52 points against Ozark Christian.
She says that the Ambassadors 0-7 began their inaugural season of competition in October, and the women's basketball website shows a roster of 8 freshmen. The fledgling program has allowed at least 100 points 3 times and scored 22 points or fewer 3 times. So they're a startup. There we go.
Yeah.
So it adds a little bit more context, but
it's Jeff Bezos in a garage level of startup, but
yeah, it's just as long as, before we go on to topic number 3, just as long as anyone doesn't look too deep into this record breaking and think, oh my God, they set a record, how amazing! Dude, you're supposed to beat them, okay? Your little itty bitty distant cousin, you're kind of supposed to kick them around, all right? Anyway, topic number 3, the Oakland A's. They blocked Pioneer League baseball team, the Oakland Bees, or the Oakland Ballers. The block came even after, so they blocked them from playing at the Coliseum, and the block came even after the paperwork was signed and the deposit was already paid for the June 29th game in which the Oakland A's would have been on the road. It got vetoed by the A's, get this, for no reason given. Council member Rebecca Kaplan, via an ESPN article, said that the blocking of the game will cost lost revenue for major projects that would benefit the city. This is why even Oakland hates the A's. Okay, there's just no excuse behind this. This is no better than whenever we watch these court cases and they're suing their landlord because it's like, oh, well, or potential landlord because it's like, oh, I paid the deposit, but you went on and gave the apartment to somebody else. And you're not giving me my deposit back. And you had no rhyme or reason for doing what you did. It's like no different, right? But I want to start off with Jacob and get your thoughts about this.
Your ego. It is an ego thing from the owner. It is ego. And think about this. The minute the Oakland Bees step on that field and its first pitch, there will be 10,000 pictures of the full stands that it will be there, at least at the bottom. I'm not saying they're going to fill all 48,000 or whatever. I'm saying the bottom rows will be completely filled. It will be embarrassing to the A's because they can't fill anything. Mm-hmm. And it will be that little Pioneer League team destroying them in attendance. And that is an ego thing from ownership. That's why they stopped that thing. They just know it is because they're going to get embarrassed. They're going to get embarrassed from this, and they hate it. And it's not right. It isn't right because no matter how bad Oakland is, no matter how they have the money, then they're going to be moving to Las Vegas like nothing. The money is nothing to them to be able to get that. Do you remember Bull Durham? All of you in the movie?
Course.
Yeah,
you remember the part where Kevin Costner's on that bus and they're talking about, I was in the show 21 Days. And he's talking about, oh my God, and they take the people take the luggage for you. The meals are just good. They're always hot. That sort of deal. To this day, it's still that way. To this day, it's still that way. It's like you move up to be able to, and of course, it's different from 1987. But it's just going to be even more advanced way. But that's the whole deal. These are kids with dreams. You're playing on a major league field. Some of them will never play in the majors. So this is their one time in their life they're going to be seeing a major league field, even if it's a piece of junk.
Yeah.
And you're pulling that on them because you're embarrassed that you can't get anybody there. And that's just what that is. And it's like, truthfully, and as much as I'm not a big fan of Manfred, this needs to be, they kind of need to intervene on this one. Especially if they already paid for it. And that's kind of, and personally, here's my thing. Pay them back and then they can play anyway.
Yeah.
For that BS in the first place. I just believe that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you something there to think about, Jacob. Okay, because I like doing that. Listening to you talk. Don't hold your breath.
Okay.
Or you'll need my doctor, Dr. Scott Beatty out of Boca Raton, who used to work at the Mayo Clinic, has his own practice here, dealing with me.
Understood.
Okay.
I mean, the thing about it though is, and I don't know, I'm sensing a bit of mental gymnastics here because, well, they can't feel anything because, well, mind you, right around about 2019, the Oakland A's were on their way up. And then they traded away like almost half their players. And then remember, we talked about this, the theory that the owner was trying to tank the team so they could move to Vegas. So if essentially you accomplished your mission, why are you mad at the turnout? And you got all the fans chanting sell the team and all the other kind of stuff. You got your move to Vegas just about, but now you're mad because you can't fill any seats. That's kind of collateral damage to go along with your master plan, which you willfully pulled off. The very least you could do is either A, let these kids play in that stadium, regardless of what the attendance is going to be, or give them their deposit back. I want to swing it to George and then get your thoughts about this.
Well, this is a situation where, the Oakland Athletics do not want to be embarrassed. The thing of the matter is, it's just one game, okay? And you already made your decision as a ball club, that you are moving out of town. So for you to be all, up in a dander on this thing is ridiculous. I mean, let this team play that game. I can see if you were going to stay there in the town, or maybe if it's interfering with the middle of a homestand, but the A's are going to be on the road at that time anyways. It to me just smacks of scaredy cat tactics. Now, that being said, I mean, we have an independent team, independent league here in Metro Detroit. Now, if they went over to the Tigers behind their backs and wanted to play a game at Comerica Park, I would anticipate that possibly the ball club would be just as angry. That being said, there's no working relationship, is what I'm saying, between the Detroit Tigers and the other league that's headed up by a gentleman named Andy Appleby in the suburb of Utica, Michigan, which is about 30-minute drive to downtown Detroit, 25 maybe. But anyways, the fact of the matter is that they're only going to play one game. It's not like they're not asking for a whole season. Heck, they're not even asking for a homestand. And you've already told the government, the city council, the mayor, that you're willing to leave, and you are leaving. And so this is crazy. It's crazy to prevent this from happening. I think they're scaredy cats. They're like chickens, and they need to put their big pants on, so to speak, the Oakland Athletics, and let this team play. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. The A's are already an embarrassment. Like it just is what it is. They're already the laughing stock of the majors. So just let them play. Squeeze out whatever you can out of the remaining years you got in Oakland, because I think they're going to go to Vegas in like 26 or something like that. And I mean, just make the best of it and stop screwing people over. But I want to round this out with Scott and get your thoughts about this, sir.
Hey, George, like I said to Jacob, don't hold your breath.
Right.
Okay, we're talking about the Oakland A's. Now, everybody knows that the minor leagues are considered the Bush leagues, right? Okay. Well, what we seem to forget here is the Oakland A's haven't even been a double-A team, let alone a triple-A team. And should they move to Vegas a little earlier than projections, they're going to be sharing a stadium with a triple-A team, which might be just as good as they are. So,
yeah.
So the reality of the situation is, you know what? Yeah, would I like to see the Oakland Bees play a game there? Sure, I'd like to do it, but let's face the reality. We're talking about the Oakland A's here. We're not talking about any, like Allen Iverson was saying to Coach Brown. We're talking about practice. We're not talking about the game. We're talking about practice. We ain't talking about the game. So, in the eyes of myself tonight, we're talking about the Oakland A's and the Oakland B's in talking Bush League conversation. We're talking about Pioneer League baseball, not American League baseball, not Major League Baseball. About a team that's moved more times, the Oakland A's, than who knows how many. I mean, I know they started with Philadelphia, made their way to Kansas City, and the beat goes on and on. But, I've looked at this thing, and you know what, to me, can the A's really embarrass themselves anymore anyways when you think about it? They've been absolutely awful the last couple of years. We've all seen this downward spiral coming. And when the owner made a decision that he wanted to leave town, then they're in a lame duck situation nobody's going to want to show. But where Oakland was stupid was when the A's fans had that boycott and they packed the joint of like 40 or 50,000 people to prove a point. They did prove a point, okay, that if you make a commitment, we'll show up, but you haven't made a commitment. And how many times have you heard a lot of stories about the press box having leaks of pipes and all that? But part of this is Oakland's fault too. It really is. I don't want to sit here and shed total blame on the A's, because if Oakland didn't have 20 years to get it figured out, then they don't deserve to have Major League Baseball. And if they're looking to have pro baseball, it's good that there will be something after the late A's leave. So I'm not going to sit here and put it all on the A's. There's no question that this Oakland B's team should play there, but we're talking about a totally different animal. I mean, I've covered a Lions game against the Raiders at the Oakland Coliseum, and that's a pretty interesting place. It really is. So I don't know what, I mean, when you walk in there, there's that sense of intimidation. When Al Davis took that baseball thing and then changed the configuration of the stadium, it didn't make it as desirable. So there's a lot of facts that once upon a time it was a baseball park, and now it was multi-purpose, and now we don't know what it is. So what else can we say? I love the title of the show, okay, where stupid is stupid does, because what we have here is a lot of stupid is and what stupid does. Good stuff there, Jacob, for coming up with a title like this.
Once in a while, he hits it out of the park.
Yeah, but the reality is this, okay? If I were the A's, I'd be out there in 25 and just leave. But this is really, to me, a very interesting story. And the A's are going to, they don't look good no matter how it turns out. One game, but we're talking about the Oakland A's. Never thought you guys would ever hear Oakland A's and Allen Iverson brought up in the same show, did you?
Right.
Right. Well, that was not a Diet Mountain Dew moment, just so you know.
Hey, here we go.
This is called a Diet Green Tea Mixed Berry is what it is. Okay. Not bad, eh?
Hey, no, not bad at all. Well, we are in the final 10 minutes of the show. We're in the home stretch, and it is Pundit's point time. So I'm going to swing it back over to my guy, Scott Morganwright, to get us rolling on this. Take it away.
All right, Denzel Snipes. Great stuff. Pundit's views. I'm going to lead off first, and then we know that Jacob Christner might have to go second from now on. That way I can be able to make sure that we conform to...
Mine will be a decently short tonight.
So, but then anyways, my pundit's view is Get Up with Mike Greenberg spent the entire 2-hour show talking about Bill Belichick's departure. Really? I love this top view because we're talking about media, whether it gets back to normalcy, whether it looks real. How on earth does one show go over a topic for 2 hours? Really? I understand even 60 minutes, 90 minutes, but 2 hours. I know you want to get this guy on there, this guy on there, this guy on there. Can't be a break. Get up to more variety instead of a show that centers around one individual. Is there a guy that's worthy of it? Yeah, maybe Bill Belichick is, but they got to do better than that. And I only watch that show because I'm always looking to get information, or when I see some things that I think are flaws in the journalistic situation here, I don't mind bringing it up. So Get Up, you really need to get up. And Mike Greenberg, my advice is there's more than one topic that meets the eye other than Bill Belichick. Okay, on to Jacob.
Really, this one's going to be definitely shorter than last night, but I want to give.
I hope.
Yeah, no kidding. There's going to be something here I'm going to give a thanks to, and it's like I'm not going to be in political or anything. I'm just going to say this. I want to thank Vivek Ramaswamy for a lot. I mean, people already know who's going to be, from this whole the presidential thing. But I wanted to say this. His last couple of the rallies, small ones, he's had protesters based just, off the anger. He's invited them indoors. They're all outside. He's invited them indoors. He even helped one of them have a guitar. Then he helped him put his guitar case together and help him go inside because it was about to rain. He said, "You can come on in. You can ask me questions. I'll answer anything."
Wow.
He did that. RFK Jr. did the same thing to somebody. He did it too. We have so much anger in this world. We need this. We need to start talking to each other. It's why I had Pundit here. Because we all talk. We all get the discussions. We have laughter, but we also have these. And I love hearing this. Am I going to vote? I don't know. If I'm going to vote, I'm not going to say I'm going to do or not. This ain't political part. It's time to start acting like this. And let's start growing up. I did stupid is as stupid as is because two 56-year-olds started a thing that 9-year-olds do. It's not necessary. None of this. Let's start talking to each other. Let's quit this hate. The hate is making money. It's got to stop doing that.
Well done. Like it. All right, George, you're next.
Well, there's a little interesting story going around here. Should I wear my Detroit Lions jersey with the number 9 and Matthew Stafford on it? And now we're making a little bit more fun of it. One of the restaurant owners in town says he will absolutely refuse admittance to anybody who shows up Sunday in downtown Detroit with a Stafford jersey in the Honolulu blue and silver. Come on, give me a break, okay? Kids get these as gifts from their dad or their mom. People, sports collectors, pay big bucks for jerseys, especially if you want an authentic one or not. Leave the people alone, okay? At least they're walking in. If they're Lions fans, they're still wearing the Lion colors. Right. And if I'm going to sit there and worry about how many people have number 9 on with Stafford's name on it, I'm not at the right spot, okay? This is a playoff game. Yeah, you want to make a big deal out of it, you restaurant owner. You got your name in the news. Okay, you had your 24 to 48 hours of fame. And then we get guys saying, oh, well, yeah, if they want to go, then they could put stencils on it or put masking tape on Stafford's name. Give me a break. I'm not going to wreck my jersey for something like that. Like I said, if you're a true Lions fan, you're wearing the blue and silver, you still can get in and still cheer for the Lions, even though it still might say Stafford on your back. This is a tough situation because, as you know, Detroit loved him. And obviously there was a love affair, even though it was not productive on the field and in wins and losses. Terrible. Never won a playoff game here, Matthew. But come on, let's do things better and let's have a little bit more cooperation. Enjoy the game. If you're from Detroit and you want to root the Lions on, if you're a Rams fan, you root for your team, fair and square. But it should be quite a circus on Sunday Night Football.
Okay, we'll end it with Denzel before we go ahead and say our final IDs. All right, Denzel.
I'd say we're in like the last 3 minutes, so I'll be real quick. So it has been announced that head coach Dan Lanning is staying at Oregon. He actually was the top coach that was being eyed on and the favorite upon the retiring of head coach Nick Saban from the University of Alabama. But he went on to announce that he was staying at the school. Yes, he was rumored to be the top Saban replacement. Also, get this. Dabo Swinney has a Bama clause in his contract, which states that he must pay 150% of his buyout if he leaves for Bama. And particularly Bama. That's it. So it's very interesting how everything has just become centered around the replacement, because you heard, Dabo Swinney's name came up, and there actually was footage of right outside the university, or actually was on campus, and Alabama alum and students were actually chanting anyone but Dabo. They don't want Dabo Swinney. Why? I don't know, Yeah, he beat you twice, but if he can help you win more titles, I don't know. You know, they're one of the more spoiled fan bases in the country, and that's no shade to them, but it is what it is. But my point was just the utter impact that has come out of Nick Saban's retirement. You're talking about a great, and you'll hear more about this on thousands of sports podcast shows, on Bleacher Report and whatever. And I get it, you know, I'm not here to harp on that, you know, but keep in mind that three greats, well, they're not with their teams anymore. Belichick, he stated he still wants to coach, but Saban's gone and Pete Carroll's gone. You know, and I think that even though Belichick still wants to coach a few more years, I think this is the beginning of the official changing of the guard. That's all I got.
Well done. Again, all you guys, well done.
Thank you very much, Will.
With all that, okay, let's remind everybody one more time that the Pundit's Pundit is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Pundit's Pundit can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Participate in the chat room, and then we'll put you on as well. Send our topic ideas, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and soon on Instagram. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. Candy Ebling does an incredible job keeping it together. On Twitter X, you can find us at Tribune South. Candy Ebling has been producing the show tonight. As always, she's done an outstanding job. My book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, can be purchased on Amazon and Kindle. It reflects pretty much old school media versus new school media. And Pundit's Pundit and Sports Exchange will be appearing on NGBN TV in the not so distant future. So stay tuned for details. After Pundit's Pundit tonight, we have Fire Up. It'll be a good show. Will Vogel will be on there, Smoking Jeremy B, Ralph Williams, Candy Ebling, George Eichhorn, just to name a few. So after you get done with us, flip on over to Fire Up. So with that said, Denzel, how can people reach out?
Denzel Sniper 13 on Twitch, Denzel Snipes 13 on YouTube, Denzel Snipes on Facebook, and Denzel 13 on Twitter.
Okay, Jacob.
Let's see, Jake the Pundit 1 on Twitter, Jake the Pundit on TikTok, 5 shows a week here and on Sideline Sports, and a movie coming up in February.
And finally, George Eichhorn.
Yeah, you can follow me on the South Florida Tribune website. I have a column under the Motor City Tribune. And I also have a book out there called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. There's a link at the end of my column. You care to purchase it, and you have a chance to see me. Reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com or on Twitter at SanGSports99. And of course, I'm proud to be on so many of these shows with all you guys. Great opportunity for all of us to talk sports. Thank you.
And I should also mention George Eichhorn wrote the foreword to my book as well, and he's prominently featured in it as well. So meanwhile, on behalf of George Eichhorn, Denzel Snipes, Jacob Crisser, myself, Scott, the Motor City Manmouth, I want to thank you for joining us on this edition of Pundit's Pundit. Fire Up is next. Good evening, everybody.